I am very happy to share with you that we have Shri Sudhir Dutt today with us. And if you look at his profile, you can easily infer that he's one of the best person to talk about in telecom industry today. Though today we are not talking about that particular industry, while I was very much, incited to talk about that, but there are so many things that are happening. We'll keep that for some other time. So Dutt Saab has worked with so many different companies. He has worked with Philips, Wipro, Barista, Whirlpool, Nokia. So he has built Nokia mobile phones business to a dominant position in India, which was around 2002 to 2007. He has been head of mobile business for Samsung, where he built this Korean firm smartphone business, which has helped it to become largest player in India today. And we all know what kind of growth Samsung has seen in our country. Next is what campaign was launched during Mr. Dutt's tenure. He has also worked at BlackBerry, where he was president of personal systems. Okay, before BlackBerry, he was president of personal systems group at computer maker HP. And before joining Reliance Jio Infocom, he has worked as independent consultant with business leader, facilitator, consultant, Asia markets, and after quitting BlackBerry, he was managing director. And now he's with Reliance Jio Infocom, as I have shared. So he has near 30 years of experience in technology industry. At Reliance Reliance Jio Infocom, he heads devices and S&D, sales and distribution. And today he's with us to talk on very interesting topic. We have heard about delivering during COVID. So he says delivering results in any normal, whether COVID, no COVID, whatsoever, delivering results in any normal, how to plan, execute, and become successful under any circumstance. I have attended one talk of Mr. Dutt earlier, and that was targeted for students. And I could see how patiently he answered each and every question of students. Sometimes they were very simple questions, very fundamental, basic questions, but he had a lot of patience to answer each and every question. Today, Mr. Dutt, we have with us people who have been alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad, or they are associated with IIM Ahmedabad, or they are associated with people who are associated with IIM Ahmedabad. So it's basically an open talk. Everyone is invited. Those who are lucky or those who get time to join us on that particular day, they come on this platform and they listen to the speaker. I would hand it over to you, Mr. Dutt, 45 minutes to 65 minutes, whatsoever time it suits you. Please share your insights, and then we'll follow it with question answers. Thank you. All yours.
Good evening, and thank you very much, Professor Verma. And thank you for the introduction and those kind words for me. It's really a humbling experience to hear about yourself from, from people who are in this noble profession of teaching. And it's a pleasure to be speaking here on this forum, which comprises of, as you said, all the alumni of IIM or people associated with IIM Ahmedabad, students, maybe some of my own colleagues as well, and some of my friends. So thank you very much for inviting me over for this talk. I just thought, there is this this current situation which has been going on, an unprecedented one for the last, I would say, 4 months now. And as a result of which, there have been several changes, and there have been several terms which have been used and terms which have been overused, the things like the new normal and other things. So there are several people who are discussing and talking about not being able to do certain things. There are people who have discovered things to do. There are people who have said that, they've gained 10 kgs of weight. And I know of people and colleagues and friends who've lost 10 kgs of weight or more during the same time, even while staying at home. So it's actually a different perspective with each and every person that I come across. However, given our own work and what we have been doing in the recent past, as well as for the last few years that I have been associated with Jio, I just thought it would be good to get a perspective of how to be able to deliver results in any kind of normal, the previous normal, the new normal, or maybe the normal of the future that is going to pan out. We don't know how it is going to happen or what is going to happen. So I just thought I would quickly talk about how to be able to plan, how to be able to execute and become successful under any of these circumstances. As you mentioned, I really have worked with different kinds of organizations, different kinds of product categories, last 2 decades out of which were in IT and telecom. But I would definitely say over here with all humility that the amount of learning and the speed of learning that I have picked up in the last 6 years at Jio has been more satisfying, more humbling, and deeper and richer than maybe the previous 2 decades. And the reason I say that is because of very rapidly changing circumstances, very rapidly changing environment, and the ability to adapt, the ability to actually drive that, and the ability to be able to actually succeed in that. So with that, when I start, I'm reminded of this quote from Charles Darwin, who had mentioned that it is not the strongest of the species that survives. It is also not the most intelligent of the species that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change that survives, and survives for a long term. So when we talk about the normals, the typical dictionary, Oxford Dictionary meaning for that would be normal is typical, it's usual, or the ordinary. However, whatever was that normal has undergone a huge amount of change, as we've seen in the last 4 months. And I dare say even over the previous few months or the previous few years, there have been changes which have been happening. However, given the recent circumstances, what we see in the last 5 months or 6 months worldwide, we've seen precious lives getting lost. We've seen businesses getting gutted. We've seen that leading to unique situations of slowdown in demand. We've seen the situations of, therefore, lesser revenues, lesser profits, because most organizations operate with fixed costs, lesser growth, which is more important for all the startups and high growth based model companies. We've seen reducing capability to operate with leverage in service debts. We've seen high default rates. We've seen unwillingness of banks, institutions, creditors to extend lines of credit. Therefore, crunch in the working capital, leading to credit crunch. Therefore, creating a situation where only the best companies or the best of the companies with flexible business models or the most of the financing and funding surviving. So this is a unique situation that we've seen in the last 5 months unfolding in front of us. So therefore, what does one do to succeed in any kind of normal? I would say developing a mindset to constantly think, evaluate opportunities, set an aggressive target to give 100% to achieve it. Exceeding expectations makes your capability crisis proof. You deliver, no matter what the circumstances, you deliver. There are 3 broad tenets that I would like to talk about. The first one being, in order to be able to do that, we need to define crystal clear objectives. Now, it seems very simple as a statement. And maybe that's why it is so important. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an anecdote. From the movie Three Idiots, you'd recall it. And even in the 1960s, NASA discovered that the traditional pen doesn't work in space. So with their engineering, the contractor company developed a space pen which costed about $1 million. The other space power during the same time, Soviet Union, what did they do? They used the pencil. Now this seems hilarious, but probe at a deeper level and hint at where things could have been done differently. What if NASA's problem statement was, make me a pen which works in space? And versus that, the Russian problem statement was, help me write in space. Now you can see how structuring of a problem or defining a very clear objective can have a much direct, a deeper, and a wider impact on the outcomes in terms of speed, simplicity, and the outcomes of that. The second tenet I would talk about would be setting some ambitious goals. Set the ambitious goals and then work backwards and then be able to deliver on that. So when at Jio, for example, we were in the design phase, our chairman's goal was very simple, to bring digital revolution to all Indians, each and every Indian. Now, there were multiple paths to be able to do that. We could have bought any existing player in the 2G, 3G space who were existing. Some of them were going belly up at that time when we hadn't even started. We could have just bought them out, building a 2G, 3G network and run it more efficiently. But then in his vision, he was very clear that if he had to serve this country and to lift it to a different level, you needed a technology which was superior. You needed a technology which would take us to that different level. Therefore, 4G as a technology was superior, and we were working towards bringing that. However, voice over LTE was still unproven. And voice is extremely dear to the Indians. As you know, all of us are aware, we love to talk. We talk a lot. And for any device to be successful, a mobile device, we do need to have voice over it. It was still unproven, untested technology. In terms of the market conditions, voice was actually driving 80% of the revenue for the telcos. Of course, a GB of data costed anywhere between 250 rupees going up to 1,000 rupees. In these circumstances also, he was very clear that we needed to bring the superior technology and we needed to connect all Indians to it. When we started off, he set us a goal, an ambitious goal, 100 million in 100 days. In the early days, we thought, by the time we are about to launch, he would kind of, maybe slow down a bit and tell us that, okay, I'm pushing you guys, but okay, let's go for a 50 million or a 20 million. 4G, new technology, VoLTE, untested. We realized as we were going along, the resolve was becoming stronger by the day. And we also realized that as we were going along, as the days were becoming hours for us, our own resolve was becoming stronger also. But what happened? Did we do 100 million in 100 days? No, we failed. We did not do 100 million in 100 days. But we did do 100 million in 170 days. And we set a world record in that. Did we stop over there? No. Our next 100, that's the 200 million, the 300 million, the 400 million, are all world records for being the fastest milestones across the companies. Today, we are the largest data network in the world. Now, was it a fluke or was it a well thought out, well planned, beyond tech innovation and lightning fast execution? It was the latter. Starting with the fact that since we wanted to create that whole ecosystem So starting with bringing our own 4G devices, which supported voice over LTE, because a whole lot of existing device players did not believe in it at that point of time. So we put our bets on it. We brought in those devices. We triggered the whole device ecosystem growth in the 4G space. Within 12 months, the entire industry moved from 3G smartphones to 4G smartphones, 100% of it. From there to the digital onboarding of the customers, which helped us to be able to onboard millions of customers every day, to removing hard-coded differentiations of the device and the connectivity channels to be able to do either of the activity. Several things were carefully planned and then flawlessly executed to perfection. The premise was that voice is inherently limiting, in the sense you have 24 hours in which to be able to speak and talk, but data has no upper limit. So from an exponential growth that we've seen of the phone camera megapixels to 2K, 4K, 8K televisions, to other smart connected devices, the content demand has boomed. And the bandwidth requirements, therefore, have also boomed along with that and gone through the roof. Now, while this was happening, we were designing our value propositions which were based on unlimited data. Our pricing value propositions were being designed on the basis of unlimited data. We wanted to completely take the fear of using data out of the people's minds. So from the fact that we made it a one data, one India plan, whether for voice or for data anywhere, no roaming charges. So we have been working on products which were latent demands of the customers, whether it was bringing in affordable data, bringing in the JioFi devices, bringing in JioPhones, which were from the day one, the affordable India ka smartphone, or the upcoming Jio affordable smartphone that we are now going to be working on along with Google. We've never ever tried to limit technology only to people who can afford it. Rather, we've taken it upon ourselves to design the business model that everyone can afford, and for Bharat to become truly digital. And yes, we found fortune at the bottom of the pyramid also. We've launched, innovated, constantly involved and evolved, and have never looked back. Almost 10% of India's population uses the affordable JioPhone today. The next tenet I will talk about is strong beliefs loosely held. I've personally never ever been rigid in my methodology or forced my way of thinking, because I believe that if, as a country, all of us, if we believe in India's potential and in your ability to get anything, then that is the right approach that we are taking for the country and for ourselves. And then it has to be planned and executed with passion. Rest everything, strategy, tactics, programs, people, skills. You'll constantly need to tweak these and find for yourself, a lot of things that you will need to constantly keep working on and changing. You'll constantly need to find new rockets for growth. While you're doing that, be humble in your approach and in your thinking, as there are a lot of things which are likely to go wrong. But don't get bogged down by that. Keep pushing towards the end with the first principles thinking. We'll get into that. We'll talk about that towards the end. but keep pushing towards the end and keep pushing with the first principle thinking. Bet on youth. Young India is going to take our country to the next level by making some audacious bets and delivering on it. And not just that, while you're doing that, I would say have fun and enjoy what you're doing. Because that's the way we've worked in the last 4 years. Since the time we launched the network, and 2 years before that, since the time we were working on bringing the whole device ecosystem into the country. We really work like that. If there's no enjoyment, then the work will become a 9 to 7 chore. And in the future, where you will be constantly, you will have to need to transform yourselves with new skills, new knowledge, not doing what you enjoy and not enjoying what you do can become disastrous. Now, the real enjoyment and happiness really comes from seeing the impact of what we made to the society. And honestly, it's a humbling experience while it gives us a huge amount of happiness. Whether it is the example of a person with Amelia, who became a retailer in the southern part of the country, and he uses his tongue to operate the point of sale. He's a retailer for Jio. He not only recharges customers, he also acquires customers. He does mobile number portability of customers and does a sizably good business since the time he started off. Or when we see the example of a young girl from a remote village in Jharkhand who used the Jio phone to study online and was able to secure admission in the college for higher studies. Or for the teacher in the remote village in Rajasthan who was teaching the tiny tots with attention span of a butterfly moving around, who had to teach them poems and other material and could never catch their attention, and use the Jio phone to actually download all of them in this form of the songs, and was able to catch their attention and get them to learn everything and anything within half an hour. Or for an old mother who's in a village and who's doing a video call with her son who's in another city. These really are the moments of truth and the moments of happiness that we live for every day. In the last 4 years, what is the other tenet that we've worked on? In the last 4 years since the launch, we are now number 1 in terms of our market share, whether it's a customer market share or a revenue market share. But believe me, honestly, those are the parameters that we do not even discuss in our reviews or in our real-time performance management. Rather, we see everybody, every person, every organization unit as setting their own benchmark and breaking their own records, because we believe in one philosophy for ourselves, which is making every day better than yesterday for everyone and for everything. Okay, so now coming to Reliance and Jio during what we call the new normal. So I'll start with some of the things that we experienced right from the day one when this whole COVID situation started. We in the organization have been reminded of several times by our chairman himself that the philosophy of this organization is the philosophy of the country, society first from the very start. So be it the Reliance Foundation, be it our oils to chemicals business, be it Reliance Retail or Jio, all parts of the organization have delivered before the COVID onset, and we doubled our efforts and redoubled our efforts during this period to be the lifeline of the Indians and the society. From providing free fuel to vehicles on emergency duty, to providing free meals to those who needed them the most, to ensuring that all the grocers, the small kirana merchants, the pharmacy outlets who were all in your neighborhoods were all served at all points of time so that they could serve the society at large. To see that the network was up at all points of time across the country, everywhere, our engineers at Jio kept working day and night to ensure that everybody remained connected. I would not go into the details of the recent AGM that was held on the 15th, because I'm sure all of you, most of you would have seen it or would have seen the key takeouts for that. But clearly, even during that, what was specified was by Neeta Bhabhi herself about our frontline warriors who have been working for the benefit of the society, about the fact that not only the fuel and the meals, but also lakhs of masks and PPE kits which were being made every day for these frontline warriors, the significant contributions which were made to different funds of the states governments, including the Prime Minister Cares Fund, or several other initiatives that were taken to ensure the digital connectivity to help our people in this time of need, when the need for information, the need for education online, the need for entertainment online, everything keeps going up several times. During the same time, while we were doing all of this at one end of the spectrum, we also, as I'm sure all of you would have been noticing, we also raised a cumulative capital of almost $28 billion, or 2.1 lakh crores. In the time when the world was struggling and getting bogged down, this happened from the world's largest tech companies who decided to partner with us, the best of the marquee tech investors, the global sovereign funds, and of course the rights issue. And why? Because we always believed that when there is a preparation and there is opportunity and you grab it with planning, you'll be able to do things very, very differently. With a future and present promise and capability, you're able to attract the right partners, strategic partners, financial partners, technology partners, all of them. I'm happy to share that we are on track to be able to deliver 500 million subscribers to our network, billion smart sensors, to be able to connect 50 million homes and merchants in this country. We are prepared to connect the world with JioMeet, with a differentiated experience with JioGlass, in-house 5G stack, and many, much more things. In terms of how we performed, how Jio has performed during the COVID-19 lockdown period, one, we've been a lifeline to about 400 million customers, 400 million Indians and their families. Our customer engagement has gone up significantly during the lockdown period on the backbone on this very strong network performance. Our average per capita monthly data and voice usage has been more than 11 GB of data per month per customer and more than 771 minutes of voice per customer. Just as a reference point, before Jio came in, this 11 GB used to be 400 MB per customer. And even during this lockdown period, we've seen that the data traffic has gone up significantly, almost 50% higher than the pre-COVID lockdown period. Our mindset continues to remain for growth and growing always, because as our chairman always said, growth is life. Our founder chairman, Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, he always said, growth is life. So we also believe that what has been guiding us have been three pillars, which have been core for our business growth, which have been, and this is in the recent time, which is safety first, customer first, and building the platforms for the future. That really has helped us keep going on and on. If I talk about the scale of operations and how we've been running our operations during the COVID period, one thing which was there very clearly in our minds from the beginning was lockdown is outside, lockdown is not in our minds. With that motto, we set about trying to achieve what some people thought was impossible. But it was not just a statement or a statement of intent or a chest beating that we were doing. 50,000 of our own employees, 1 million of our retail partners and our distribution partners, they were doing this activity to serve the customers on a day in, day out basis. They were also taking a symptom tracker for the COVID symptoms every day, along with millions of the other customers. Our entire network operations and customer care operations started to get managed remotely. We onboarded several Jio associates digitally within 4 weeks to be able to help communities stay connected while also giving these individuals an opportunity to earn during these times. More than 50,000 of our own employees, through very specific programs, digital programs, ensured that the customers stay connected. It was almost like Johan Cruyff's total football. All our people, all our team members became adept at adapting themselves to different roles. In fact, some of our service employees performed in terms of getting the customers to stay connected to the network, sometimes even better than our salespeople. So to the credit of all of them, they have helped us to do that. So then what are the skill sets which help us to succeed in these kind of, any kind of normal? So we've identified a few skill sets, and I'll just talk about them. One is the first principle thinking that I spoke about, which is nothing but to distill a problem into its fundamental issues and then attack every branch of that to solve it. And while you're doing that, do not let your legacy biases, legacy issues, personal biases, any anecdotal evidences, kind of color that thinking. So that's the first thing that I would say is required as a skill set. Chasing a latent demand. So you need to be able to develop the judgment for identifying areas where a 10x supply can lead to exponential growth in the demand. These are areas where you need to really think deeply and really work on very deeply. Then, as I had said earlier, define the end goals and then start working backwards. And then define what all are the steps which are needed to do to set those impossible goals. And then methodically identify what are your one-time tasks, what are the repetitive tasks, what is the work plan, and then constantly focus on it. Thinking as a long-term with infinite player mindset is the other skill set that we need to work on. develop your own strengths. Think for the end users at all points of time, whether B2B users, B2C users, all kinds of users. Understand what are the network effects, what are the digital business models that will impact these customers. Think and then design, and design for scalability. Hands-on leadership has no substitutes as a skill set. And you require a lot of rigor, a lot of flexibility, a lot of tenacity to be able to drive the teams and the individuals, which sometimes in our case, sometimes have numbered in thousands, towards flawless execution and flawless implementation of any project, any idea. And then of course, absorb and assimilate different viewpoints while you're driving and guiding these teams. Measure and focus on inputs. That's another skill set in terms of prioritizing for the maximum impact. Identifying what are the key drivers, identifying what are the trends, what are the outliers, and then whatever are the key insights, ability to synthesize those key insights are the other skill sets that are required. All of you are experts on this last one that I'm talking about, which is whatever will get measured will get done. So I don't really need to talk anything more on that skill set, but whatever has to be done has to be measured for its impact, and then constantly measured as you're going along. So therefore, what do we focus on to develop these skills? And these are our own learnings. Maybe you might, all of you have more and varied and different learnings to add on to that. But some of the things to focus on and to be able to develop the skills is: one, prepare well for everything. A good preparation is something that leads to better end results. You also need to be comfortable with the idea of becoming uncomfortable. Because if you're uncomfortable and if you're curious, that would lead to sometimes situations where you will try and find and discover at all points of time the things, the new skill sets that need to be adopted or adapted to for the different results in any circumstances. Read. Don't just be limited to your own subjects, but read beyond. Read what are the things that can impact your businesses. Some things sometimes which could be completely unrelated. Another skill set that we've learned is to write, to learn structure, to learn logical flows. A lot of us did not have them in the beginning, but we've learned them as we've gone along. Being good with numbers is another skill set that I would say is extremely critical for success at a large scale. So that is something that, again, if one doesn't have it, one needs to work on it to develop it. Learn the mental models and practice them. Of course, as I said, problem solving with first principles, with data, with actionable insights, again becomes critical. I think I've been speaking for a long time, but in the end, I would just like to say a few things, maybe repeat a few things. That to be able to deliver results in any normal and to be able to execute and be successful in any circumstances, there just won't be any one formula that fits all. And I'm sure all of you realize that. You all know it also. But if you're able to adapt, as I just explained, move with these principles, develop these skill sets, and move and adapt with lightning speed, focus, thinking, and I think you're more likely to then going to be able to succeed at it. So defining clear objectives, the strategy and the programs to execute, the tasks to be done one time and the repetitive tasks which need to be done, defining those, defining who are the people who are going to be able to deliver on it, and what are the measures that you're going to measure for success. If you're able to focus on these, in my view, whatever are the circumstances, whatever are the normals, it will be possible to actually deliver and become successful in any of these situations or circumstances. Thank you very much for the patience, for hearing me out, and do take care of yourselves and your loved ones. And as I was sharing with Professor Verma, next time when we are meeting or we are speaking, I do hope it will be on GeoMeet. And with that, once again, sincere thanks to all of you. And thank you, Professor Verma, for inviting me over. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, Dutt Saab. So now we have questions for you. The first question comes from Dr. Shiv Kumar Kushwaha, and he is asking, how did you manage to earn trust of customers? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, well, see, I sometimes I ask some of my friends, colleagues, or other people, in terms of winning the trust, it comes with experience. In the early days when we were building our network, and we thought, let's bring in customers and co-create our network and the experience with our customers. So for a certain period of time, you would have seen that we had offered our customers to use the network free of cost. And a lot of people who did not believe in us in the early days, or were critical of us in the early days, said, it's easy to give everything free of cost and get customers. So it's easy for you to get customers like that. Anybody would come free of cost. So certainly, that's true. But then I ask, and I'll ask anybody, if you're walking down the street and somebody has just opened a new showroom of, say, footwear, and this person says, I've opened a new showroom of a footwear, and I'm giving away certain, shoes free of cost. Would you please try on? Chances are that maybe we'll say yes, and we'll try on the shoe, we'll try it out for the size, and maybe we'll just walk away. Now imagine if the heel of that shoe or the sole came off or came apart, on the third day of your usage, and then on the fifth day you're passing by the same showroom, and the same owner says again, sir, ma'am, I've opened a new showroom of footwear. I'm giving away certain shoes free of cost. Would you please try? I'm sure, and at least from all the answers that I've heard so far, face to face, have been, I would not take another shoe, even if it was free. So to say, how did we build the trust for our customers? We build the trust by two means. One, by giving them an honest pricing for the data. The second, by making it available in every nook and corner of this country, by ensuring that as of today, 97% of the country is covered with our network. Third, the biggest trust comes with experience. And I think that is something that we managed to drive with our customers very, very effectively. So I'm not saying some customers would not be unhappy with us. I'm sure would be. But then our effort always has been to work towards satisfying those customers and to ensure that we are able to solve their problems. And we solve it with speed. So trust really comes, I would say, with experience, and trust comes with transparency, and trust comes with honesty. From 16,000 different plans which were operating in the market, we brought them, when we started off, we brought them down to 10. And even now, we operate with the least number of plans to be able to make life easier for our customers and not make it more complicated. So that's how we work. And I think that's the reason why we've been able to drive the trust with our customers.
Shivani has a question to ask. So I will let Shivani ask the question herself. And then Manvi is also waiting. Yeah. And all those who are typing questions, they may also start their video. Maybe you can ask in person. Shivani, go ahead.
Sure. Good evening, sir, and thank you for this very nice talk. My question was that towards the end of your talk, you talked about how measurement of results is very important. Now, when we see about especially sales practices, everyone usually focuses on the sales target. And now increasingly people have started to focus also on the qualitative aspects and the relation buildings in the sales processes. So how is this something that can be measured?
See, I'll tell you what, I had spoken about measuring the inputs. So if you identified that there are sales targets, so targets, numbers are easy to measure, but what are the inputs that are going to be able to deliver on those targets? As I said, go down to the first principle thinking. So if you've identified and broken down the task to its fundamentals and then decided what are the inputs that you're going to measure, that would help you to measure your success as you keep going along, because that would help you to be able to deliver on that trust, to be able to deliver on that experience that you're talking about as to, you know, how do you measure that? But that would help you to be able to deliver on that. If you're able to deliver on that, the end results which you're trying to measure are going to get delivered.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Shivani.
Manavi, you want to ask your question now?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, there's an issue with my camera. I'm unable to turn on my video. So, Sunil sir, good evening. Thank you so much for a wonderful talk. I'm a student, and my question to you is that sometimes the work gets very overwhelming and it seems scary to complete it within a given time frame. So what are your 2 cents on planning in such stressful situations where the amount of work that you have to deal with can almost give you anxiety?
Well, that's very interesting because, you know, I think almost all of us would have faced the situation at some point of time or the other, or would still continue to face that. So again, Manvi, it's important that instead of focusing on the end result, I would say, you know, it's important to focus on the inputs which are going to deliver that. The anxiety comes when we do not know what all to put together to be able to deliver on the result. The anxiety comes when we do not know what is it that is going to lead to that end result becoming possible. So I would say focus on that, focus on the inputs, focus on the tasks which need to be done. So if you're able to identify that for delivering this result, these are the one-time activities that need to be accomplished, and these are the recurring activities that we need to keep doing. If you're able to do that and you're able to put a time frame for it, you'll have a realistic situation in terms of how you're going to be able to deliver that result. So my suggestion would be try do that.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sir, I would request Shyam Sundar. Shyam Sundar, please ask your question.
Thank you, sir. Very good evening, Sunil Saab. This is Shyam Sundar. I wish to ask a question that is basically difficult to execute from the sense of trying to make it remote with regards to industries that are heavily reliant on on-field activity like construction, etc. that I belong to. The question is, what are the key things that one can do for customer retention as well as growth and maintenance of the revenue supply chain, if that's possible? Thank you very much, sir. And a wonderful talk, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Shyam. I think it's a difficult one to answer. Especially when you're talking about the construction related, and so yes, see again, the fundamental principles, going back to that and trying to solve the fundamental issue is that if you have a project to deliver, right, then I think what you need to figure out is how are you able to get people to be able to carry out on that construction as a first step? Because that is going to lead to your promise of the end delivery. Now, given the situation, given the situation in our country with respect to people who work on the construction sites and the safety measures that need to be brought in, again, I think if we are able to give that right amount of confidence and build the right kind of safety environment for the workers and able to prove it to all the people who are from the authorities that that a project can be executed by keeping all the safety aspects in mind, and reassure each and every one of those people that their safety is of prime importance. And if we are able to actually invest behind it, then you can actually have the people working on the projects. So for example, there were certain cities where certain projects got delayed. Why? Because a lot of workers who were from the other states decided to migrate back home. While on the other hand, there were certain cities and certain authorities who were able to actually provide projects and give the safety equipment for the people and were able to actually complete some of those projects. And in fact, some of them were able to actually bring forward some of the projects, whether it was about building the road or whether it was building a site, etc., etc. And now, of late, you would even find COVID has not gone away. COVID has not disappeared. Yet you find people are coming back, working in the fields, people are taking their precautions, people are doing all kinds of those things. But then for that, going back to the first principles of trying to identify what are the key issues to be resolved, and then working on each and every one of them is extremely important. I don't have a one answer to it, but I think fundamentally, if we are able to take our approach the right way, I think we should be able to get there.
Got you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Mohi, you may ask a question now, please, Mohi.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, my question would be, it's a little related to the technical one. So I have 2 laptops working all 5 days in my home and 2 mobile connections and 1 tablet which always connected and smart TV. We always connected the Prime and Netflix and 1 NVIDIA Shield box. And also the occasionally friends will come and connect that this one. And we are using 36 Mbps fiber broadband connection without any latency and jitter. So here is how the split works, right? So the 2 laptops and 2 mobile phones and tablet and Shield, these are all, it's required almost and 12 to 15 Mbps, this one, right? Speed. And ideally 35 to 50 Mbps is more than enough for any household, even in India, to watch content of IPTV and OTT platforms. My question is that in this scenario, how this 5G technology is going to help in India, mainly in the mass market and also in enterprise market level and also in metro. So this is my question.
Okay, Mohi, I think, first and foremost, I think you're a great customer to have for you're a dream customer for any digital company to have. I'll try and answer it in a little bit because honestly, if you ask me, I don't think I have a complete answer to what you asked as a question. But in terms of 5G, while it is going to make the experience better for all those consumption media that you talked about, 5G has a larger purpose to solve. And that purpose is for the digital connectivity across the country for several, I would say, larger initiatives, whether it is related to healthcare, whether it is related to agriculture, whether it is related to education and delivering content, whether it is to make education simplified, whether it is for the purpose of wealth care, or for several other such initiatives. So it's 5G is not just about making an entertainment experience better, which it will, of course, or about, making the connectivity at home better, which of course it will deliver. However, it has a much larger purpose to serve. And across the globe, several use cases for that are still being worked upon. So do we have a final answer to it? I don't think so. But are the use cases being worked upon? Certainly and definitely.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I am in the field from last 18 years in the telecom and cloud, this one. And that's what I have. Some more questions, but maybe
We'll take later, Mohi.
You could
Let's
send
see.
them across.
Sanjay sir, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
sure. Tiwari ji, your chance, please.
Yeah, good evening and thank you very much, Professor Verma ji, or the speaker, Mr. Sunil. I'm really thrilled by hearing him. But one thing which I wish to ask, besides many other parameters which he has emphasized, one point which he says, dream big. I mean, I would love to know, is there a mechanism? Is it individual driven? Is it a small group which dreams? Or there is a culture of dreaming big? If you can throw some light on that. And in fact, the hidden question is how to bring in the culture of dreaming or innovation in the organizations.
Okay. So, well, first and foremost is that dreaming big has to be a culture. Unless you build it up as a culture, it doesn't get sort of adopted by everybody. So as I said, if you have the skill set of adapting yourself to different circumstances, and some of us are lucky to have experienced or got the experience of working with big dreams or building large businesses, etc. For some of us, it becomes overwhelming. However, if the culture is to dream big, then you are able to get everybody on the same page. And honestly speaking, people who are incapable of that, sometimes you have to figure out what is it that you need to do for them, or what is it that they need to do in life. I'll give you a small example. It's a little incident which I have not shared with too many people. But when I joined Jio, it was about building the device ecosystem because we did not have 4G devices. And in the first presentation deck, which I had sent across to the chairman, after it went, I noticed that there was one segment in which we were projecting to have 5% share of the market. And it immediately struck me, and it comes when you get impacted by the big dreams. It immediately struck me, we don't work for 5%. This is not an organization which works for a 5%. This is an organization which dreams big, executes big, and lives big. So I immediately sent across a message saying there is a change which I need to make, so I wish to withdraw my presentation. However, the video conference was going on in the next 15 minutes. So while I withdrew my presentation, while the chairman was gracious enough to say that, okay, yes, we will discuss this later on, but his speed of reading and his speed of absorbing is so high that even during the meeting, he, without directly referring to me or to the presentation, he said, we work big. We don't work for small market shares. We work for big, large market shares. So at Reliance, we always dream big. We plan big, and then we plan with flawless execution to execute big. So it has to be a culture, and it has to be nurtured. It doesn't come overnight. You have to work with people to be able to change or facilitate that thinking big.
That's up. There's a question from Facebook, which is, how is Jio using machine learning and artificial intelligence in digital growth? Are there any use cases?
Well, that's a question for some specialists. So I would rather send across the answer from the specialist to him, rather than trying to take that up as an answer, because it's a huge topic in itself.
someone is logged in with I Mahesh. I Mahesh, I don't remember. So I Mahesh, maybe I stand for something. So if you can start your video, you can ask question. Meanwhile, Anil Kariwala, you can go ahead and please ask your question. You're on mute, Anilji.
Right. Mr. Sanjay Dutt, namaskar. It was absolutely very inspiring speech. And I owe a lot to Professor Sanjay Verma. His transformation class itself was very transformative for our business. And your speech, I do feel, is transformative for, it's really second booster dose of transformation for our business. So, Mr. Sanjay Dutt, my question to you is, what
Sunil
aspects of spirit,
Sanjay.
Mr. Sunil Dutt, Mr.
I'm
Sunil
actually the
Dutt, I'm
father.
sorry. I'm sorry, sorry, that's right. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No, it's
Sorry
not
about
at all.
So my question to you, a very short question. What aspects of spirituality, given your humility with which you have delivered your talk today, I wonder whether you have some connection with spirituality. We all have. What aspects of spiritual principles did you apply in your management principles, if at all?
See, I think at a very basic level, spirituality teaches us the feeling of humanity and the feeling of humility at the same time. Because I think if one is truly spiritual, then the humility comes naturally. I have seen some of the most successful leaders being extremely humble and at the same time having a very rich tradition of humanity. A lot of times I had heard from, I'll talk about my personal self later. Let me first talk about the organization. So sometimes we had heard that, you know, from outside of Reliance ecosystem, it's a ruthless organization. It's uncompromising. It's has very little patience. Well, it's ruthless, uncompromising, has very little patience so far as going after an objective is concerned. In terms of people and in terms of people policies, I think we have some of the best across the globe. The first time when we attended a function and we heard the chairman, personally first time when I attended, he started by saying at Reliance, what we believe in and what we work towards is family first, health next, and then the business. And honestly speaking, I have seen that happen. I have seen it happen across several times. I have personally experienced it in one of the personal, or not one, in fact, 2 or 3 personal exigency situations. And I have seen it happen even during this recent COVID period for not only our own employees, but also our partners, our vendors, our distribution partners, channel partners, everybody. And for a man as successful as our chairman, the humility with which he greets everybody and works with everybody is something that needs to be experienced to be able to get believed. It's rare. And I have worked with several global leaders, and I can tell you, nobody has it like him. On a personal level, I've always believed that you are a human being first and a manager later, and a leader after that. So come what may, I think no matter what the success, if we always keep learning from that success and we keep attributing the fact that our success comes not just because of ourselves, but also a lot because of our teams. And we give them the due credit for that. And while I'm at it, I would say that, you know, a lot of credit for what I've shared with all of you today goes to one of the youngest colleagues that I have in my team, a gentleman named Lalatendu Panda, and young, bright mind. So a lot of this has been worked together with him. So I think if we are able to keep our minds open in terms of being able to learn from everybody, including our younger people, I think that is what spirituality tells us. We could pray for any amount of time, but if we are able to learn and execute it like this, I think this would, it has held me in good stead always. It has helped me in my life. I'm to each his own, of course, but I'm sure it will help.
That's up two
Great.
things. One is this
Great.
Lalatendu Panda reminds me of one of my students, either at IME or XIM Bhubaneswar, I don't know, but I have taught one person with Lalatendu Panda. Anyways,
Well,
so
he's
whenever
from Odisha. He's from Bhubaneswar.
so I must have taught in X. I remember this name 20 years ago. Whenever someone talks about raised bars, I wish we see movie like Chak De India or Prahar. We have to work, Anilji, we have to work very hard, we can't sleep and win Olympic race. We have to only
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's what life is. I would request Professor Anand Deshpande to ask his question, and then I would go for Mahesh. Anand Deshpande, then Mahesh, then Sanjay Garg. Anandji, you are on mute, please. Professor Anand, you are on mute.
You're on mute.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Sir, my question is on migrant labor. You just mentioned about migration and reverse migration. Does your group have a specific HR policy towards migrant labor? And do you think we can do without migrant labor? Or is there any specific strategic advantage engaging migrant laborers?
Well, see, I don't think we've been employing any kind of migrant labor for any purposes other than, the Reliance Foundation helping them with several initiatives. And, what we believed in is, and, Reliance Foundation led by our chairman's wife, Ms. Nita Ambani, has during this period actually led from the front, not only in terms of building hospitals, in terms of supplying the PPE kits and masks and everything, not only in terms of ensuring that emergency vehicles are provided with fuel, but we also distributed more than 5 crore meals to the needy people. And these were people who were in need of them, and this was done across the states. Whether those people were migrants going from one state to back home, or they were any other people, our foundation people were always there at the front end to be able to support all of them. So that is something that we've done. In terms of our own thoughts with respect to people, I think across the country, this is one country and we believe in one India. People will move from one part of the country to another part of the country. And the whole digital initiative that we have taken, Professor Anand, is for the fact that we want to connect this country in a manner where each and every person becomes capable to be able to improve their own lives. We can't improve anybody's lives, but we can enable people to get connected to the world so that they are able to then decide what's good for them and how to improve their lives. And that is the objective with which we work. And that is the objective that we are trying to take across the length and breadth of this country. We want every person in this country to be connected digitally.
Thank you, sir.
Mahesh, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, sir. This is Mahesh, and thank you, Dutt sir and Sanjay sir, for wonderful insight. I have one question, sir. While you are building such an ecosystem right from scratch, apart from your own experience, is anything learning from competition which you brought in as a point to be considered, or you went with your own thoughts and experience because you had limited experience, but obviously, was there any learning implemented from competition, or you went on your own? Thank you very much.
Short answer, we decided, we set our own goals. As I said, right in the beginning, we always have been thinking from first principles. We decided what is better for the country. There was one learning from the competition, though, is central to what we have done. And that learning is to always remember the purpose for which you start the business. Somewhere when telecom started, or the telco business started, the purpose of that business was to connect people with each other, connect people with their work, connect people with information, connect people with entertainment, connect people with healthcare, connect people with the world. That was the guiding principles of telco in the beginning, right? Somewhere along, I think that objective got diluted because upgrading of technology did not happen at the pace at which it should have happened. So a lot of people tell us that, oh, but Jio disrupted the whole market. Jio has completely disrupted the market. Jio has not disrupted the market. Technology, 4G as a technology has disrupted the market, and newer technologies will always disrupt the markets. Jio has only brought in revolution. We haven't disrupted, we've only brought in a revolution. So yes, we did learn that one bit from the competition, and I think that helped us a lot.
Thank you, sir, for bringing a big revolution. We are all using a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sanjay Garg, please. Last question, sir. Sanjay Garg.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Sir, my question is that you have thought of telecom as a sector when it had already the crowded players and the telecom intensity already was huge. Why Reliance could not think of any other area which was more basic to these people, like health, education, sanitation, or maybe defense? So my question is that basically in an already crowded market, what was the need of setting up another telecom venture and another venture which would have been more basically beneficial to Indian people could have been thought, basically?
So this is a very interesting question, Sanjay ji, and let me first of all say that was the market crowded? For telcos, yes, it was crowded. However, we are not a telco. Yes, we have voice and we have data, and we have a digital connectivity. So maybe because of voice and that data usage, people sometimes equate us with telcos, because also we had to take licenses as per that telco guidelines. However, in the true sense, we are really not a telco in its limiting factor. We are a digital company, we are a digital services company. And therefore, by doing the right thing, by building the right platforms, we are not only able to impact the telco business, but we are also able to impact other businesses. So you might have been starting to hear about, our association with Facebook, wherein we are going to be connecting millions of merchants, the Kirana merchants and the other merchants. Our association that is coming up with Google, that got announced in the AGM, will help connect a lot of Indians on the digital platform and help in the, Google is famous for its search platform. Several other platforms, several other partners that we work with are going to be able to actually impact healthcare, agriculture, animal husbandry care, a whole lot of other sectors, education, financial sectors. So by bringing in this digital technology, we brought in the core platforms, and we are working on the core platforms which would impact different industries and different organizations in the industries. So therefore, it is not just a telecom business that we are in. We are actually into a much larger, wider space.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, two more questions have come. Two people have raised hands. That will be the last two we'll take. Sorry for this. People have interesting questions. Romi Anand and Shriyoshi Chaudhary. These are the last two questions. After that, we'll not take any other question. Quick questions, please. Romi Anand and Shriyoshi Chaudhary.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Hi.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
So my question was that during this lockdown period, sir, COVID-19 period, I have seen that some of the people, some of the laborers, or you can say that some of the people who own small businesses, they have stopped doing recharges. Just I am talking about Jio. They have stopped doing their recharges. They used to recharge before this pandemic. They used to recharge of I think $5.99, but now as their income has stopped, they have stopped recharging. So what can we do here, sir, in this case? Because their income has stopped, and so that's why they are not in that condition where they can spend $5.99 or so on some recharge. So what can we do, sir, in this case?
See, Romi, first and foremost, there are several very affordable packs for the customers to recharge with Jio. So, starting for example, for our JioPhone customers, who I believe a lot of these customers would be JioPhone customers, they can actually remain connected with as low as 49 rupees for basic connectivity. What also has happened is that several of them who might have been using SIMs or sometimes more in this period have decided to give up some of their SIM cards and actually use one SIM card, which has been basic. Also because of the fact that we've removed all the roaming charges, etc. So people sometimes, even when they're moving across the country, they are preferring to use one rather than to be using multiple SIM cards, and which is the basic one for them. Second is that the data rates are now so affordable that they can remain connected at a very, very affordable price point. There are packs which take your data rate down to 3 rupees a GB. A significant change from 300, 500, 1,000 rupees a GB earlier. So, they are recharging. However, some of them might be using lesser number of SIM cards as compared with earlier, or they are using the affordable plans.
Okay, sir.
Yoshi,
because we have seen actually the data consumption go up, during this period.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yoshi, go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Thank you, Mr. Dutt, and thank you, Professor Verma. Sir, I have a question. So you mentioned develop a plan and chalk out all the small tasks and recurring tasks, and then adapt and move with lightning speed. So at this period, sir, I have seen that in my case, sometimes I find myself moving too fast and then not being able to motivate the team to move at the same place. So how do you manage that? Because at this time, it is important for everybody to move in lightning speed. So, sir, could you please throw some light or give some tip here, sir?
Well, Shiroshi, it's important that the team understands what the objective is. So as I said, before I said about, defining the task, I said define the objective and make it very, very clear in terms of understanding. So if your team understands the objective, then the tasks need to be divided, or the tasks need to be specified for each and every individual. Sometimes individual will do it themselves. Sometimes you have to do it for them. So in which case, then you'll need to kind of work towards that and to be able to ensure that the one-time tasks or the recurring tasks are being understood and being adopted by each and every team member. So it's not enough for a team leader to be running at a faster pace, because otherwise your team will slow you down. Yeah. It's important for every person in the team to be running at that pace. Therefore, to be able to equip them, you need to train them. If you need the people to run faster, you need to be able to train them to run faster. See, if today, if I decide to go for a run, I might not be able to go for a run. But if I decide that, okay, today I'm going to start the practice, and then, as our philosophy has been in Geo, if I decide that I'm going to make every day better than yesterday, and today, okay, I decide I will run 500 yards. Tomorrow I'll make it 501. Then I'll make it 510. Then I'll keep increasing it. Then I'll come to the time when I say, okay, now I'm doing 2000 meters, but I need to do 2000 meters in lesser amount of time. So I have to train for it. I can't do it in day one. I need to figure out how to train myself. So do I take expert help to train myself, or do I study and train myself? I had mentioned about, learning, reading and writing. So how do I train myself? So I need to write down all of this and then say, okay, this is my path to success and this is how I will run. Not everyone will run at the same pace, but as I said, so long as you got each and every person, each and every cog in the wheel to understand what is the function and what is the task which they need to perform, then you're moving in the right direction.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think we'll not take any further question. Let me take this opportunity to thank Mr. Dutt. Mr. Dutt, thanks a lot for coming on this platform and sharing great insights. And as you can also see in comments, people are so happy. They feel that they have been enlightened with your wisdom. I'm sure you will, in future also, you will have, you will give us opportunity to come and share more insights about business, about how to go ahead improve as a person, and maybe advice to young people also, and people of our age also. Thanks a lot once again. And I request all of you to give a big thanks to Mr. Sunil Dutt for coming here.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Professor Sanjay sir, and
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil ji. Thank you, Professor Sanjay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Wonderful session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.